Let's do it. You know what I mean? Today we are here to build about the legendary Dr. King. Today is January 13th, 2025. And if you came today to get the message, you know what I'm saying? I'm delivering it to you. You know what I mean? So let's do it. No matter how many people show up, you know, I want you to know that the message was for you. Even if it's 20 people that showed up, the message was for you. And that's all that matters in a world where everything is based on numbers, right? For a value system, a fake value system, I want you to know that sometimes the wackest rappers have the most views, right? And sometimes the realest MCs have the least amount of views. The holistic teachers have the least amount of views, right? They sell the least amount of veggie sandwiches or whatever they sell, you know what I mean? But McDonald's is booming. So always keep that in mind, right? Can't always give values to the numbers. Also, we are learning that numbers are inflated, right? Numbers can be inflated. That's what Drake is suing Spotify for. So anyway, we are here today to build about the legendary Dr. King. Such a great man. Such a great man. And I don't know if we always appreciate Dr. King. But today, by the time I finish this lesson, I hope that you can walk away with a better perspective on Dr. King and even a better perspective on yourself and our so-called people, right? So Dr. King had a famous quote that he said in 1967, right? The 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, but in 1967, Dr. King had a famous quote that was 3 years later. What he said was that he feared that he may have integrated his people into a burning house. That's what he said. You know what I mean? So here we are 57 years later in the year 2025, and we're going to look at we're going to take a deep dive, and we're going to do some mirror work, some shadow work, and we're going to see how we've been doing inside this burning house that Dr. King feared that we would be integrated into. So let's go. The great Dr. King said that we were being integrated, that he integrated us into a burning house. And 1 year later, Dr. King's face was knocked off by a rifle as he stood on the patio, as he stood on the balcony, as he stood on the balcony at a Memphis hotel. It was such a tragic ending to such a great life. But why would they want to take Dr. King out like that? Dr. King was a peaceful man, right? Dr. King was nonviolent. Why was he such a threat that somebody would want to take Dr. King out in that manner, right? We're going to build on that today too. So I want you to know that you are living in a capitalistic society. Of course you know that. But I want you to know that this is a hyper-capitalistic society. And Dr. King, when he said he integrated us into a burning household, I think that he may have been realizing the dark side of hyper-capitalism, and the way that you can lose your individualness, as a group, as a people, once you buy into the capitalistic system, which is America, right? So we wasn't always able to participate in America. We even when once we got freed, once we got free, we had to live amongst ourselves, right? They had laws put in place for us to live amongst ourselves. They didn't want to go to school with us. They didn't want their kids around us, right? They didn't want us riding their buses. We had the least, just like on the plantation when we got the scraps to make the soul food, right? we was given the scraps, working with the scraps we was given. As Pac said, the great Afeni did. Also, happy belated to Afeni Shakur, right? Great Black Panther sister, Tupac's mother. It's her birthday anniversary. Just passed last weekend, I believe. So yeah, the same way we had the scraps on the plantation was the same way that we had the scraps once we were free. And we worked when we did the best we could. We as a people we always was known to take less and make gold. We took the pieces of the pig and everything that they didn't want, and we made soul food out of it. It wasn't the best for the diet, you know what I mean? But we survived off of that, and we created something off of that, right? So as we got free, and we didn't have the opportunities, we didn't have the opportunities that they had due to coming out of slavery, being held back for so long. We still made something out of nothing. Wilmington, North Carolina was booming. Tulsa, Oklahoma was booming. You know what I mean? Other places was booming. Atlanta, Georgia had parts that was booming successfully. But many of these black towns were burnt down. Many of these black towns were burnt down off false allegations, right? Rooted in jealousy and hatred. It's just the truth. I'm just here to tell the truth. So, it got to the point where we realized that if we wanted to, give opportunities to our children, then we would have to integrate. It was the only thing we could do. We're black Americans. We fought in every war, but we was treated as less. We were never treated equal, and Dr. King wanted to take part in changing that. He wanted to change that, and he felt like it was in our best interest to integrate, to get better schooling for our kids, to get better schooling. You know how a lot of immigrants come over and go to the best universities in America, and they can for 6 years they can be here, and then they usually go back to where they are from. So imagine that. Just as Black Americans, we wanted to go to them best schools too and get the best education, so our black children could also have the best opportunities. And that's why Dr. King was so adamant when it came to integration. Now, not everybody agreed with Dr. King. Dr. King was seen as a troublemaker by even his own people at times, right? Because I believe that some people were scared for Dr. King. They were scared for this brave black man, this young black man that was so vigorous, and adamant about making a change. But Dr. King, he was fearless. He was a God-fearing man. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was a God-fearing man. And, he was adamant to make a change, and he was willing to sacrifice his life so that future black children could have opportunities that black children at that time couldn't have, right? So, 57 years later, Dr. King gunned down in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968. 1968. We are 57 years away from that, if my math is correct. 58, rising up on 58, I believe, right? But Dr. King was gunned down in Memphis, Tennessee. And I don't know if you ever been to Memphis, Tennessee. I've been a couple times. When you get to Memphis, Tennessee, one of the first things you see is a pyramid, right? The pyramid comes from Northeast Africa. And that's a Bass Pro. One of the biggest Bass Pros in America is in Memphis, Tennessee, right? And in Memphis, Tennessee, when you pull into the city, you see that huge pyramid. And Memphis is named Memphis, but it's named after a place, an ancient place in the African region named Memphis. That's where Memphis gets his name. That's where Memphis, Tennessee gets his name, right? A lot of this stuff is Masonic. So And a lot of masonry comes from this African region also, right? The founding fathers, many of them were Masons. So they put that in, they riddled that into a lot of the to a lot of the monuments that you see in America. Some of the names of American places, they were Christians, right? When you think of Virginia, you think of the Virgin Mary, you know, and when you think of Maryland, you think of Mary in the Bible, Mary's land, right? None is accidental. So when you think of Memphis, Tennessee, you got to think of the ancient Memphis, which was in Africa. And Memphis was a place where they buried African kings. And Dr. King was an African king, a black king. He was. And he was gunned down in Memphis. So now, 2025, when we look at Memphis, Tennessee, we see that this is still a place where kings are buried. Many black kings die here every day. Young black kings slaughter each other. I believe Memphis, Tennessee is the murder capital of America. And it's also a very, very black southern city. And the South is America's version of the motherland. The Southeast region is the motherland for black Americans within America. And many young black men are slaughtering each other every day in Memphis, Tennessee. But Dr. King wasn't about that. Dr. King wasn't about killing his own people. Dr. King was about saving his people, teaching his people, building with his own people. So why did Dr. King say that he felt like he integrated his people into a burning house? I think he seen the vision. I think he seen the vision. I think he seen where we were headed. The materialism worship that comes with America. Why are so many young black men killing each other for money, for clothes, for jewelry, for hoes, to impress women? Why are so many sisters selling their bodies for money, for shoes, high expensive European high-end shoes, right? For the bundles, for the bust downs, right? Why are so many sisters selling their bodies? It's your body. You can sell it if you want to. But what happened to so many of our sisters and our brothers once we got integrated into this, into this house which was burning, and Dr. King seen it burning, and a year later he would be gunned down in Memphis. But now Memphis is a place where brothers are gunned down every day. Kings are killed here every day. It ain't no thing. So regular day, man. It's regular day in Memphis. Rappers rap about it, you know what I mean? And guess what? New Jersey ain't no different. New York ain't no different. Chicago ain't no different. St. Louis ain't no different. LA ain't no different. New Orleans ain't no different. Baton Rouge ain't no different. Charlotte, North Carolina ain't no different. Birmingham, Alabama ain't no different. Oklahoma City ain't no different. Charleston, South Carolina ain't no different. Shit is, man, I done been all these places, man. Nashville ain't no different. I seen a nigga stab another nigga in Nashville at the Greyhound back in the day, bro. Niggas ain't got no love for each other. Hate to say it, bro. Some sad shit, right? But this is how we living. Let's be honest. We love Dr. King, what he died for, right? But how do we thank the man who put his life on the line to be that voice? You know, I want to tell you about Dr. King, man. Dr. King went to jail more than your favorite gangster rapper. Yeah, you love niggas who went to jail, right? You love niggas who went to jail, but Dr. King went to jail more than your favorite gangster rapper. See, but he didn't go to jail for selling dope in his own community. And he didn't go to jail for pistol whipping no other nigga, robbing the bank, robbing his own people. Dr. King went to jail so many times because he was fighting for his people, fighting for you. But you still don't even love yourself. You know what I'm saying? You still don't love yourself. So Dr. King was taken from us for what though? 58 years later, 57 years later, how do we thank Dr. King? How do we thank Dr. King for that? Because what I look at is a people that have failed Dr. King. We've had some anomalies, Paul Robeson around that time, the great Reginald Lewis. We had some brothers and sisters that made it through the cracks, that did the best they could do. But right now, and since I was a kid, in the words of Tupac, can't blame me. I was given this world. We didn't make it. We just the children of this shit. But it's a slap in the face to Dr. King. Every time it's time to celebrate Dr. King, we always talk about how the CIA and the FBI who say Happy Dr. King's Day, that was a slap in Dr. King's face every year. And that's true. Because they boarded Dr. King's hotels. They blackmailed Dr. King to tell his wifey that he was creeping around. Dr. King wasn't perfect. Dr. King was a human. And humans give in to lust. They do. Humans are not perfect. You look in that mirror and you don't see a perfect man. If you do, I can show you a man that's not perfect, right? So right now the black dollar don't even bounce. It stay in the black community for about, I think Dr. Claude Anderson said 5 minutes. And then it's gone. Right? Support black business, support black business. I give you the money, you take the money and go to Best Buy, it's gone. You take the money and go to McDonald's, it's gone. You take the money and go boom, it's gone. It's gone. We don't own shit, but we are good at consumerisms. I like to stay fly my damn self. You know what I'm saying? I'm part of the problem too. This ain't just for y'all. This is for me too. You know what I mean? This lesson go for me too. I could do better myself. It's a slap in the Dr. King. It's a slap in the face of Dr. King, the way I've treated my people at times. I believe it was 50s or 60s. Montgomery bus boycott. You know what I'm saying? You do the knowledge. Montgomery bus boycott. Dr. King told all the black bus riders who made up the bulk of bus riders in that county, in Montgomery, in that city, don't ride the bus. Don't ride the bus. They need you. No blacks rode the bus. I think about a month, 2 months later, black Americans could sit anywhere they wanted to on that bus. See, when you live in a capitalistic society, feelings ain't respected. Money is respected, right? Money is respected. And the thing is, everybody want money in the black community, but we don't have the connections to get it. So we think going the way to get it is to harm each other instead of doing like Dr. King said and pulling your bread together and helping your people out. Instead, everybody want to stun on each other. That's the reality of the situation. You know, our children are materialistic. I see them. I see them. It ain't a good look. You can keep your kid fly, but it's the way you go about it. Yo, it's always about the way you go about it, right? In today's time, we lead in health issues. How we doing? You know, how we doing? Let's really take a look in the mirror. Black Americans are twice as likely to get diabetes over white Americans in the modern times. Black American women are twice as likely to be victims of fibroid tumors than white American women. Black American men die at a faster rate when it comes to heart disease. Number one killer. Black women lead in HIV cases in general in America. And the black LGBT community, part itself, lead in HIV cases. Atlanta, one of the blackest cities, is plagued with this disease. STDs, black Americans lead in. Black Americans lead in strokes. Black women lead in breast cancer cases and die from the disease at a higher rate. Black women lead in ovarian cancer. Black Americans lead in pancreatic cancer. Black Americans lead in stomach cancer deaths. Black babies die at a much higher rate than any other rate when it comes to abortion. Black Americans lead in being gun violence victims, and we also lead in gun violence cases. The number one killer of young black teenagers is the gun, mostly pulled by another black male, young black male. Black kids die in drive-bys more than other kids. Black women are 3 times more likely to die while giving birth. Black infants born after fertility treatments have a higher risk of death compared to white infants. Black Americans are more likely to have a kidney disease. Black Americans are 3 times more likely to die from asthma attacks. Black Americans are more likely to die from colon cancer. During the COVID-19, black Americans died. 40% of sex trafficking victims are black women. Black women are more likely to experience domestic violence than any other group of women. Black women lead in PCOS. Black Americans are still more likely to be gunned down by the police. Did you hear those stats? Did you hear those stats? We got to get serious. We got to get serious, you know. If we really love Dr. King, we got to get serious. Right now, they are trying to erase black history out of schools, right? That's the start of it. They got rid of affirmative action. They are now getting rid of DEI programs. They don't want to hire you. They don't want to hire you. They don't want to be told and forced to hire you. Now, when they look at a black American, they see a DEI hire. This is an issue that's going on right now, and it needs to be addressed. Our music used to be soulful, and they used to speak on stuff like this. It no longer does. Our music, which we don't control, is nothing but promotion for European brands. That's reality. This is the burning house that Dr. King feared that we integrated into. and nobody cares. We go around saying we love Dr. King, but Dr. King had 5 books, and most of y'all don't own one of Dr. King's books. MLK parades go down every year. Niggas is showing up, getting blunted, drunk, getting drunk. You know, MLK streets have always been violent, but Dr. King wasn't about violence. That's a slap in that man's face. But you say you love Dr. King, right? We so ungrateful as a people at times. We so ungrateful as a people at times. Niggas got the nerve to say Dr. King was soft. Niggas say Dr. King was soft. You know, but what have you done? All your smoke is with other people that look like you. Dr. King got laws passed that they reversing, and you don't even have enough care in the world to speak out and use your platform, which is targeted against you also now, to speak light. Instead, you use your platform to speak dark. January 20th is Dr. King's Day, and I hope that you teach your kids about Dr. King, and if you are an adult, I want you to try to go out and cop one of Dr. King's books. He had 5 while he was alive that was written by him, you know. And I want you to, when you ride, next time you in the hood and you ride by and you see niggas outside eating bad food, right? Smoking L's in front of kids, not a care in the world, drinking in front of kids, fighting in front of kids, you know what I'm saying? No respect, no care. You listen to rappers that can't even give us one, you know what I'm saying? Cause I mean you could be against the rapper, but you know what I'm saying, you gotta have some conscious element to you. You know what I mean? Nipsey Hussle still gave you the game. Griselda throw A in there. You know what I mean? It's only righteous. It's only righteous. But January 20th is Dr. King Day, man. It's a day you should reflect on Dr. King's sacrifice that he made for y'all, you know, and stop taking this shit for granted and stop taking this shit as a joke because, you know, again, that's a slap in his face. Slap in the face of Dr. King for you to have all the opportunities that he fought for and for you to just be out here slaughtering each other, robbing each other, killing each other, you know what I'm saying? Creating single homes, bouncing out on your children, not raising your children. Gotta try to be more righteous, man. Dr. King wasn't a perfect man, but he was a righteous man. January 20th, celebrate Dr. King's Day by reflecting, right? Have more respect for Dr. King and what he sacrificed for. Because the way it's looking now, you know, he could have just not even did all that, man. He could have just chilled with his family. You know, he could have just chilled with his family. Because right now, everything that he sacrificed and died for, you know, look at the result. We in the burning house. But before we bounce and wrap this one up, I did make a promise to tell you why Dr. King was such a threat. See, again, this is a capitalistic society. And in a capitalistic society, it's all about competition. Capitalism breeds competition, and somebody will be at the bottom. That's just how it works. See, Dr. King was more like Malcolm, more like the Black Panthers in the sense of they all embraced communism to a degree. They all believed communism was a better answer. And that was a threat to America in a capitalistic society. You know, Malcolm connecting with African leaders, that was a threat. Malcolm X connecting with Fidel Castro, that was a threat. You know, when you seen Kamala running for office, they called her Communist Kamala, right? This has always been a threat. You watch the film Birds, and the birds represent the communist invasion that America was in fear of for a very long time. So Dr. King was seen as a communist traitor to many people, to many people on the other side. And when he was taken away, many didn't want to give him a holiday. Many called him a communist traitor to America. That's what they seen. So when you watch that Martin episode and Martin say, oh, I just didn't want to go to Arizona. And Martin tell him, it's like 95, Martin tell him, hey man, I don't care what Arizona say. Martin Luther King is a holiday. Right? That's because at that time it was many states that didn't want to recognize Dr. King Day as a holiday. But now, more states have embraced it. But deep down, many of them don't have and didn't have a lot of love for Dr. King. They didn't. And many of us, we say we love Dr. King, but our actions sometimes say otherwise. But not to doom and gloom, it's never too late to put the pieces back together. And I'm not against capitalism. I believe when you live in a capitalist society, we must adapt to survive and learn capitalism. But we just can't let the money make us lose our morality, right? And we must understand that groups work together. Groups work together in America. When you look at the Asian, they work together. The Nigerians, they work together and they value education and they value two-parent households, because sociology would tell you two-parent households lead to more successful adults. More successful adults lead to better neighborhoods and better educational systems. So, as January 20th approaches, this is something you can just run back, play and listen to it over and over, you know what I mean? Yeah. On that note, we out. Peace.